In 1991, a geologist from Boston University stood before the Great Sphinx of Giza and made a claim that would shake the foundations of Egyptology. His name was Robert Schoch. He had spent months analyzing the erosion patterns on the Sphinx enclosure walls, and what he found contradicted everything mainstream archaeology believed. The vertical fissures carved into the limestone were not caused by wind and sand, as experts had long maintained. They were caused by water. Thousands of years of rainfall that had not fallen in Egypt since at least 7,000 years before Christ. If Schoch was right, the Sphinx was not 4,500 years old. It was at least 12,000 years old, built by a civilization that existed before recorded history. The implications were staggering, and the questions multiplied. If the Sphinx was that old, who built it? And more importantly, what else might they have left behind? 3,000 miles away and 30 years later, a 5-year-old girl in Atlanta, Georgia, wakes up screaming in the middle of the night. Her name is Amara Johnson. She is the daughter of Derek Johnson, a firefighter with the Atlanta Fire Department, and Tamika Johnson, a 4th-grade teacher at a local elementary school. They live in a modest home in the Cascade Heights neighborhood. They are a church-going family. They do not own books about ancient Egypt. They do not watch documentaries about pyramids or pharaohs. They have never discussed archaeology at the dinner table. Amara has never seen an image of the Sphinx. She is 5 years old. She still sleeps with a stuffed elephant named Peanut. She is afraid of thunderstorms, but tonight she is afraid of something else. Tamika rushes into her daughter's room and finds Amara sitting up in bed, pointing at the floor. Her small hand trembles. Her eyes are wide and wet with tears. She's pointing down, through the floor, through the foundation of the house, through the earth itself, as if she can see something buried far below. "They are still down there," Amara whispers. "They are waiting." Tamika holds her daughter close and asks who is waiting. Amara does not answer. She just keeps pointing down. The first academic to suggest hidden chambers beneath the Sphinx was not a fringe theorist or an amateur enthusiast. He was Edgar Cayce, the American mystic who in the 1930s described a hall of records buried beneath the monument. Mainstream Egyptology dismissed his claims as fantasy, but decades later, serious researchers began to find evidence that something was indeed hidden underground. In 1977, a team from Stanford Research Institute used electromagnetic equipment to detect anomalies beneath the Sphinx. They found cavities, hollow spaces that should not exist if the bedrock was solid. The Egyptian government acknowledged the findings but refused permission to excavate. The anomalies remained unexplored. Amara begins to draw. It starts 3 days after the nightmare. Tamika comes home from work to find her daughter sitting at the kitchen table with crayons scattered everywhere. Amara has covered an entire sheet of paper with shapes, rectangles connected by lines. Tamika assumes it is a house or a building, the kind of thing any 5-year-old might draw. But then Amara explains. "This is the room where they sleep," she says, pointing to the largest rectangle. "This is the room where they remember." She points to a smaller rectangle. "And this is the room where they go back." She points to the 3rd rectangle, the smallest one, at the end of a long line. Tamika asks what she means. "Go back where?" Amara looks up at her mother with an expression that seems far too old for a 5-year-old face. "Up," she says, "to the stars." If you are fascinated by mysteries that science cannot explain, consider subscribing to this channel. We explore the ancient secrets that connect our past to questions we are still asking today. Click subscribe and join us on this journey into the unknown. In 1993, John Anthony West published research that expanded on Schoch's geological findings. West was not a geologist. He was an independent Egyptologist who had spent years studying the symbolism and architecture of ancient Egypt. His book, Serpent in the Sky, proposed that Egyptian civilization was not the beginning of advanced human culture, but rather its inheritor. West believed that the Sphinx was built by a lost civilization, one that possessed knowledge far beyond what mainstream historians attributed to ancient peoples. He suggested that this civilization had left records of their existence hidden beneath the monument. Records that were deliberately concealed, records that were meant to be found at a specific time. West spent years trying to obtain permission to explore the anomalies beneath the Sphinx. He was denied repeatedly. Amara draws the same 3 rectangles again, and again, and again. Derek notices first. He comes home from a 48-hour shift at the firehouse and finds a stack of papers on the coffee table. All of them contain the same drawing. 3 rectangles connected by lines. Some are crude, the early attempts, but the later ones are increasingly precise. The proportions become consistent. The angles become exact. Derek counts the drawings. There are 47 of them. His 5-year-old daughter has drawn the same image 47 times in less than a week. He asks Tamika about it. She tells him about the nightmare, about what Amara said, about the rooms where they sleep and remember and go back. Derek is a practical man. He has seen things in his work that defy explanation, moments where people survive what should have killed them, moments where fire moves in ways that make no sense. He has learned not to dismiss things simply because they are strange. He sits down with his daughter and asks her to tell him about the drawing. Amara tells him everything. In 2017, scientists from the Scan Pyramids project used muon tomography to peer inside the Great Pyramid of Giza. Muons are subatomic particles created when cosmic rays strike the atmosphere. They pass through solid stone but are absorbed at different rates depending on density. By measuring muon absorption, researchers can detect hollow spaces within solid structures. The Scan Pyramids team discovered a massive void above the Grand Gallery of the Great Pyramid, a chamber that had remained hidden for 4,500 years. The discovery made headlines around the world, but it was not the only anomaly the technology detected. Preliminary scans of the Sphinx and its surrounding bedrock revealed additional voids, hollow spaces beneath the monument, spaces that corresponded to the anomalies detected in 1977, spaces that no one had ever entered. Amara describes the first room in detail. She says it is large, larger than their house. The ceiling is high, so high that when you stand inside, you feel small. The walls are smooth, not rough like regular stone. They were made smooth on purpose. When you speak in this room, your voice changes. It becomes bigger. It fills the whole space and comes back to you different, like it is carrying something extra. There are things on the walls. Pictures that are not really pictures. They move if you look at them long enough. They tell stories about people who came from somewhere else, people who were here before the other people, the old ones, the ones who built everything. Derek asks how she knows this. Has she seen photographs? Has someone told her about these things? Amara shakes her head. I was there, she says. I helped them. The Edfu building texts are among the most enigmatic documents to survive from ancient Egypt. Carved on the walls of the Temple of Horus at Edfu, these texts describe a time before the pharaohs, a time when Egypt was ruled by beings called the Shemsu Hor, the followers of Horus. According to the texts, these beings were not human. They came from elsewhere. They brought knowledge and built the original sacred structures of Egypt, including the primordial mound upon which all later temples were modeled. The texts describe how these beings eventually departed, leaving behind their works and their wisdom. They also describe hidden places where the knowledge of the Shemsu Hor was preserved, places that would remain sealed until the time was right for them to be opened. Amara describes the second room. She calls it the room where they remember. It is smaller than the first room. The ceiling is lower, but the walls are covered with writing. Not the writing in her books at school, different writing. Pictures that mean words, thousands and thousands of them. They tell the story of everything, where the old ones came from, why they came here, what they taught the people, what happened when they left. Amara says there are also objects in this room, things the old ones used, things that still work, things that are waiting. Tamika asks what the objects do. Amara thinks for a long moment before answering. They help you remember, she says. They help you remember who you really are. In 2018, former Minister of Antiquities Zahi Hawass announced that no excavation beneath the Sphinx would be permitted. He dismissed claims of hidden chambers as pseudoscience and conspiracy theory. He stated that the bedrock beneath the Sphinx was solid limestone and that no structures could possibly exist there. But Hawass's statements contradicted the findings of multiple independent research teams spanning 4 decades. The Stanford Research Institute in 1977, the Waseda University team from Japan in 1987, the Scan Pyramids project in 2017. All of them detected anomalies. All of them found evidence of hollow spaces. Why would one of the most powerful figures in Egyptian archaeology so adamantly deny what multiple scientific investigations had confirmed? Amara describes the third room. This one is the hardest to explain. She struggles with the words. She says it is small, the smallest of the 3, but it is the most important one. This is where they went back. She says there is something in the center of this room, something that is not like anything else. It is not a machine, but it does something. When the old ones wanted to go home, they would go to this room. They would stand near the thing in the center, and then they were not here anymore. They were somewhere else. They were back where they came from. Derek asks where they came from. Amara points up. Not at the ceiling, at the sky beyond it. Have you ever experienced something that felt like a memory but could not possibly be one? A place that seemed familiar though you had never been there? A face that you recognized though you had never seen it? Many people report these experiences. Science calls them déjà vu and dismisses them as neurological glitches. But what if they are something more? What if some memories are older than our current lives? Share your experiences in the comments below. We would love to hear your stories. Robert Bauval spent decades studying the alignment of the Giza pyramids. His book, The Orion Mystery, proposed that the 3 pyramids were arranged to mirror the 3 stars of Orion's belt. The alignment was not approximate. It was exact, matching the positions of the stars as they appeared in 10,450 BC. Bauval suggested that the entire Giza complex was designed as a terrestrial map of the heavens, a monument to Orion and the beings associated with that constellation. In Egyptian mythology, Orion was the home of Osiris, god of the dead and resurrection. The pyramid texts, among the oldest religious writings in human history, describe the pharaoh's soul ascending to Orion to dwell among the gods. Bauval proposed that the Sphinx too was part of this celestial map, and that whatever lay beneath it was connected to the same stellar origins. Amara begins to describe the beings themselves. She does not call them gods. She calls them the tall ones. She says their heads were different, longer, shaped like eggs standing up. Their skin was not like her skin. It was darker in some ways and lighter in others. It seemed to change depending on how you looked at it. Their eyes were large. When they looked at you, you felt like they could see everything inside you, every thought, every feeling, every memory you had ever had, but it was not scary. It was warm. It was like being wrapped in something safe. Tamika asks if Amara was afraid of them. No, Amara says. They loved us. They made us, and they loved us. That is why they taught us everything. That is why they left the rooms, so we would not forget where we came from. Brian Foerster has documented hundreds of elongated skulls from Peru, Egypt, and other ancient sites around the world. Mainstream archaeology explains these skulls as the result of artificial cranial deformation, a practice where infants' heads were bound to alter their shape. But Foerster's research has identified skulls that cannot be explained by binding alone. Some have cranial volumes significantly larger than normal human skulls. Some have different bone structures, with 2 parietal plates instead of the normal 3. Some have genetic markers that do not match any known human population. Foerster has suggested that these skulls may represent a separate humanoid species, one that either coexisted with humans or preceded them, a species that ancient cultures around the world depicted in their art and described in their myths as gods. Amara draws one of the tall ones. The proportions are wrong for a 5-year-old's drawing. The head is elongated, stretching up and back. The eyes are large and almond-shaped. The body is thin and tall. The hands have long fingers. Amara works on the drawing for over an hour, adding details, erasing and redoing sections until she is satisfied. When she is finished, she shows it to her parents. "This is Keeper," she says. "He was my friend. He showed me the rooms." Graham Hancock has written extensively about a lost civilization that existed before the end of the last ice age. In Magicians of the Gods, he presents evidence that this civilization was destroyed by a cataclysmic event approximately 12,000 years ago, possibly a comet impact. Hancock suggests that survivors of this civilization scattered around the world, bringing with them advanced knowledge that they encoded in monuments and myths. The Sphinx, with its evidence of water erosion predating Egyptian civilization, could be one of these monuments. Hancock proposes that the Hall of Records described by Edgar Cayce is real, a repository of knowledge left by this antediluvian civilization for future generations to discover, a time capsule waiting to be opened. Amara explains why the rooms have not been found. "They are not supposed to find them yet," she says. "The tall one said that people were not ready. People had to grow up first. They had to learn things on their own. They had to make mistakes and fix them. Only then would they be ready to remember." The tall ones put protections around the rooms, not walls, something else, something that makes people not want to look, something that makes people say the rooms are not real even when they know they are. Derek asks when people will be ready. Amara considers this question carefully. "Soon," she says. "That is why I am remembering. That is why other children are remembering too, because soon it will be time to open the rooms." The Turin King List is an ancient Egyptian document that records the names and reign lengths of pharaohs, but it also lists rulers from before the First Dynasty, a period mainstream Egyptology considers mythological. According to the list, Egypt was ruled for thousands of years by gods before human pharaohs took the throne. Osiris, Horus, Thoth, and other divine figures are recorded as actual rulers with specific reign lengths. Some scholars dismiss this as religious propaganda, but others suggest that the Turin King List preserves a genuine historical memory of a time when beings who were not fully human ruled the Nile Valley. Beings who eventually departed, leaving behind monuments that would endure for millennia. Amara describes how she knows all of this. She says she was there, not as Amara, as someone else. She was smaller then, not a tall one, a helper. She worked in the rooms, keeping them clean, preparing them for when the tall ones needed to use them. She was there when the tall ones decided to leave. She was there when they sealed the rooms. She was there when Keeper explained why they were going and why the rooms had to stay hidden. She says Keeper told her she would forget. Everyone would forget, but one day she would remember again, and when she remembered, it would be a sign. A sign that the time was almost here. I remembered, Amara says simply, so it must be almost time. In 2019, a team of researchers using ground-penetrating radar identified a previously unknown void beneath the Sphinx. The void was located near the front left paw, in a position consistent with earlier anomaly detections. The researchers published their findings in a peer-reviewed journal. They called for further investigation. Their calls were ignored. No excavation was authorized. No follow-up studies were permitted. The void remained unexplored, just like all the voids before it. A pattern emerged. Whenever technology revealed something hidden beneath the Sphinx, authorities found reasons not to investigate. Funding was denied. Permits were refused. Findings were dismissed or buried in bureaucratic delays. Amara draws a map. She draws the Sphinx from above, a shape she should not know how to render accurately. She draws the 3 chambers beneath it, positioned exactly where researchers have detected anomalies. She draws the passages connecting the chambers. She draws an entrance, a vertical shaft descending from between the Sphinx's front paws into the first chamber. She labels each room in her 5-year-old handwriting, sleep, remember, go back. Tamika takes photographs of the drawing. She sends them to her sister, who teaches art history at a community college. Her sister calls back within an hour, her voice strange. "Where did Amara see this?" she asks. "This layout matches descriptions in texts that have never been translated into English, texts that exist only in academic archives." Tamika has no answer. Manetho was an Egyptian priest who lived in the 3rd century BC. He wrote a comprehensive history of Egypt called the Egyptiaca, which survives only in fragments quoted by later authors. According to Manetho, Egypt was ruled first by gods, then by demigods, and finally by human pharaohs. The reign of the gods lasted for thousands of years. Manetho provided specific names and reign lengths for these divine rulers. His account aligns remarkably with the Turin king list and other ancient Egyptian sources. Modern historians dismiss Manetho's divine rulers as mythology. But what if they were something else? What if they were memories of actual beings, preserved and transmitted across thousands of years? Amara talks about the end. She says the tall ones did not want to leave. They loved the people they had made. They loved teaching them and watching them grow, but something was changing. The tall ones were getting tired. Their bodies were not meant to be here for so long. Some of them were already sleeping more than they were awake. Others had already gone back through the small room to where they came from. Keeper was one of the last ones. He helped seal the rooms. He made sure everything was preserved. He told the helpers that one day, when people were ready, the rooms would open again, and everything would be remembered. Amara says she was sad when Keeper left. She says she stood at the entrance and watched him go down into the rooms for the last time. She knew she would not see him again, not in that life. But he told her something before he disappeared into the darkness below. He said, "I will find you. When it is time, I will find you." If this story has moved you, share it with others who seek the truth about our past. Subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. We are exploring these mysteries together, one story at a time. The remembering is just beginning. There is a moment in every investigation where the evidence becomes impossible to ignore. The anomalies beneath the Sphinx are not speculation. They have been detected by multiple independent teams using different technologies across 4 decades. Ground-penetrating radar, electromagnetic resonance imaging, seismic refraction surveys, Muon tomography. The data is consistent. Something is down there. Hollow spaces, chambers, voids that should not exist if the official narrative is true. And now there is a 5-year-old girl in Atlanta, Georgia, who has never studied archaeology, never visited Egypt, never read a single book about ancient mysteries. A girl who wakes from nightmares about people waiting underground. A girl who draws detailed maps of chambers she has never seen. A girl who describes beings with elongated skulls and eyes that could see through you. A girl who speaks of rooms where they slept and remembered and went back to the stars. How does she know? Amara Johnson does not have an answer, neither does Derek. They are ordinary people living ordinary lives, trying to make sense of something extraordinary. They have not contacted researchers or sought publicity. They simply watch their daughter and wonder. Amara has stopped having nightmares. She still draws the 3 chambers sometimes, but less frequently now. She seems calmer, as if a message she needed to deliver has been delivered. When her parents ask about the rooms, she smiles. They know now, she says. The right people are starting to remember. Soon, everyone will remember. She does not explain what she means. She does not need to. Beneath the sands of Giza, something waits. It has waited for 12,000 years, since the last of the tall ones sealed the chambers and departed for the stars. It has waited through the rise and fall of dynasties, through the construction of pyramids, through the coming of Greeks and Romans and Arabs and Europeans. It has waited through the invention of writing and the forgetting of old languages, through the building of great libraries and their burning. It is still waiting, but perhaps not for much longer. The case of Amara Johnson is not unique. Around the world, children are reporting memories of lives they could not have lived, describing places they have never visited, speaking words in languages they have never heard. Some describe ancient Egypt, some describe other ancient civilizations, some describe beings that were not fully human. The pattern is consistent. The details often correspond to obscure historical or archaeological findings that the children could not possibly have encountered. Science has no explanation for these cases. Psychology offers theories about false memories and suggestion, but these theories fail to account for the specificity of the information, for details that match unpublished research or sealed archives. Something else is happening. Something that cannot be explained by current models of consciousness or memory, something that suggests the boundary between past and present may be thinner than we believe. Amara Johnson is 5 years old. She lives in Atlanta, Georgia, with her parents and her stuffed elephant named Peanut. She goes to kindergarten. She likes macaroni and cheese and the color purple. She is afraid of thunderstorms. She also remembers a time before this life when she helped beings from the stars maintain chambers beneath a monument that would not be built for thousands of years. She remembers a friend named Keeper who told her he would find her when the time was right. Is she remembering something real? Or is she imagining something impossible? Perhaps the answer lies beneath the pores of the Sphinx, in chambers that have been detected but never opened, in records that have been hidden but never destroyed. Perhaps the answer is waiting for us to be ready to find it. Perhaps the time is almost here.